Okay, thanks to many of you for not leaving when you heard I would be doing the introductions today. Actually, I think another thing I'd like to bring up, it is really we're having a great GRC this year. The organizational team, the team who puts this together is doing a great job. I think also our speakers, the speakers are doing just a super job this year. A lot of good questions being fielded and being fielded very well. We've had no one throwing things. We had no violence this year, and so I think it's going real well. So a big round of applause for our speakers, too. As you've already been told, my name is Tom Redd. I'm with SAP with our merchandising team, and I volunteer a lot for many different functions at U of A, even though many times I don't even know I've been volunteered, but somehow I get involved and help. Today, I'm very honored to be introducing this session that's all about brand, luxury, and innovation. It's a very unique session. We're going to take you through the process with three great speakers of how this all takes place, this process to bring those three words together. So we're very, very pleased with one of our first speakers is going to be Jesse Curlee, who's the president of SUPEMA. We are very pleased to have Jesse Curlee, also a very involved member at U of A, even though he did go to Texas A&M. We do have some issues about where you did go to school when you're going to be involved at U of A, but we've slowly let that play down. Jesse, again, is the president of SUPEMA and is supporting our Pima cotton brand around the world. Jesse's going to tell you more about SUPEMA, where he started in 1979 and took over as president in 1981. So our first speaker, Jesse Curlee. Thanks for being here, Jesse. Come on down. Next, I would like to introduce Jeff Elder, who's the Vice President of Marketing from the J.G. Boswell Company. Jeff is going to tell us more about J.G. Boswell, the company, and also going to explain more about their role in this overall process. Jeff has over 30 years of experience in the agricultural business, and he oversees the sales and marketing of all Boswell products, and that's moving all the way from Pima cotton to cottonseed oil. Jeff is also the vice chairman of the California Agricultural Leadership Foundation. Jeff, come on up. After a lot of negotiation, we decided I wouldn't be the wrap-up speaker today. We thought we'd bring up someone of a little bit different value in the retail story. So our wrap-up speaker today is going to be Claudio Del Vecchio. Claudio is the CEO of Brooks Brothers and also the CEO of Retail Brands. Many of you may know that Retail Brands owns Brooks Brothers. Claudio is also a very active member of the NRF board, which is very important to all of us within the retail industry. He's also an executive director of the Luxottica brand. If you're not familiar with Luxottica, if you check out my glasses, this is Luxottica. Stylish eyewear. Thank you. So Claudio, all of us are very pleased to have you so involved in the retail industry and especially pleased to have you here today. Come on down. So all right, we're going to learn a lot today about many different things. It's important for all of you students out there especially to be CEOs. One thing you have to understand in the retail industry is process. And you have to understand how things are created, as Jesse always likes to say, from dirt to shirt. So you need to understand those things. As a great learning session. Pay attention, and this is one of the things that will help you become a top retail leader in the future. Jesse, all yours.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you very much, Tom. I appreciate it. And you talked about your fashion, your glasses there. You were also telling me last night he was uncomfortable at the reception last night, and he told me that he wore 100% polyester underwear. So I told him he needs to go to Brooks Brothers this afternoon. There's one at in Biltmore Fashion Square, and you can buy you 100% SUPEMA underwear and T-shirt, Tom. So hope you'll do that. Seriously, I want to thank, though, Melinda and Kim and Annette and all of their associates at the Terry Lundrum Center for Retailing for giving Supima and the other two people here this opportunity to tell you a little bit about what we've done together. Also want to say that this is the third year I've been fortunate enough to come to this conference. Didn't know much about it 3 years ago and made the first one, and I've really been impressed with the whole organization, with the whole school and what you're able to do and the programs you've had for the last 3 years. I think they're excellent. But again, you've given us this opportunity to hear from Supima, to hear from a grower who grows this special cotton, and to hear from the chairman and CEO of a well-known retailer, Brooks Brothers. The close relationship between Supima and Brooks Brothers began over 25 years ago, but at that time, there were very limited products of Supima in their stores at that time. But the most prominent one at that time was a well-known Oxford cloth button-down shirt. And this shirt was actually the workhorse of the dress and casual wear in America, actually in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even today, this shirt is in Brooks Brothers. They even now have it in a wrinkle-resistant, but it's 100% Supima. But the relationship between Supima and Brooks Brothers took on a new dimension a few years ago. And I'm going to talk more about this in just a minute, but first I think I need to tell you a little bit about Supima and this special cotton to put everything in perspective. Supima cotton is known in the cotton industry as an extra long staple cotton. This means that the cotton fibers are considerably longer than regular cotton. They're also much stronger, and therefore it's possible to spin a finer, stronger yarn and a stronger and softer fabric. Extra long staple cottons are completely different species of cotton than regular cotton. Only about 3% of the cotton grown in the world can be called and can be designated as extra long staple cotton. Because of the special fiber properties, this kind of cotton sells for a considerable premium over regular cotton. Generally, ELS cotton commands about a 50% premium over regular cotton. Today's Supima cotton is selling in the range of $3 per pound, and this is a record high in these very unprecedented times for cotton prices. The Supima name is a registered trademark that's owned by the growers of this cotton in California, Arizona, New Mexico, and the El Paso region of Texas. This is where this cotton is grown. The growers in these states got together and formed an organization, Supima, to promote the special type of cotton. And the name was Supima was selected, which meant superior Pima. The growth of this production of American Pima in the U.S. began in a rather unusual and interesting way. While extra long staple cotton has been grown in the U.S. since the early 1700s or late 1700s, when we had Sea Island cotton, the real growth of this type of cotton began later. It actually began during World War I, when the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company could not acquire enough extra long staples in trucks, and especially for the trucks for World War II. At that time, the American tire industry was dependent on Egyptian cotton, and the Egyptian cotton supply had been interrupted because of the war. So the following year, the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company the following year in 1920 edition of the Textile World Journal, this was written about cotton and tire cords. From a textile man's point of view, there must be something very amusing in the general acceptance of the term rubber tire or rubber belting or rubber hose. A very large part of the material in this rubber articles is cotton. In fact, in some ways, it might be considered that the articles were made of cotton with a protective coating of rubber. If we estimate 5 1/4 pounds of cotton in the average tire, this would require 400,000 bales of cotton per year, and so much as most of the tire is extra long staple cotton. So just to tell you a little bit about what cotton was used for in those days. Therefore, in 1916, Goodyear Tire Company came to Arizona and purchased 24,000 acres of land and grew what they called at that time American Egyptian cotton. Goodyear at that time selected a young engineer by the name of Paul Litchfield to come to Arizona and manage this project. And it was a massive project at that time. It involved taking raw desert land, and you know what raw desert land looks like if you see this area out here, and clearing it, cultivating it, putting irrigation ditches. It actually involved creating 2 communities, 2 towns, and employing thousands of people to run the farm and run the gins that were involved to gin the cotton. Goodyear Tire Company produced their first Pima crop in 1917. This was a very successful project, and Mr. Litchfield later became chairman of the board of Goodyear. And there's a town just west of Phoenix, a very nice little town called Litchfield Park, which is named in honor of Mr. Litchfield. I want also just stop a minute to tell you that was the beginning, the real beginning of Supima or American Pima cotton in this part of the world. But another very important factor in the growth of this cotton, and we've got some people here from the University of Arizona. The dean is here today, and a lot of the people are here. The University of Arizona was also very prominent, developing new varieties in their School of Agriculture. New varieties not only got better yield, but better quality. So if it hadn't been for all of that research at the University of Arizona, we wouldn't have Pima today either. The Supima organization was established in 1954. Its purpose was to create an organization to promote this unusual fiber to textile mills. As I mentioned earlier, the Supima name and trademark is a registered trademark. This means that only brands and retailers who are approved by Supima can use the name Supima or our trademark. Other brands and retailers can use American Pima, and they can call it Pima, which is a generic name. But however, only selected brands and retailers can use the name Supima. Supima's efforts for the last 30 years has been to establish Supima as a premium cotton brand for apparel and home fashions. So the Supima license is required. In our licensing program, we license in our licensing program the entire supply chain: the spinner, the fabric maker, the weaver, the knitter, and the garment maker, and the brand and the retailer. All of these people have to be approved. And we do this because this is the only way we can be assured that the final product on the shelf is made out of 100% Supima cotton. Now to tell you a little bit about branding our brand Supima. You know, it's always better to be brilliant or smart, but if you're not this way, I think things you have to do is sometimes copy other successful companies and see what they're doing. You have to listen to successful people and take their advice. When I joined Supima, I didn't really visualize or think about the purpose or the need to build a brand. My initial goal at Supima was to persuade textile mills to try American Pima, to evaluate it and use it in their spinning operation. There was little thought at that time of the upstream potential with brands and retailers. Fortunately, on one of my first trips to Japan, a small company that was actually owned by the Mitsubishi Corporation already had this idea of branding Supima. This company later asked for and was granted exclusive use of the Supima name in Japan, and this is where the Supima licensing program began. Then after a few years with this small company, we were later approached by the largest textile company in Japan, and they wanted to be the exclusive licensee for Supima in Japan. Right after that, we had the next 9 companies, or the top 10 companies in Japan, all came to us and said, look, we would like to be licensees. We did eventually license all of those 10 companies to be licensees in Japan. We learned a lot from the Japanese licensees. Most of these companies were adamant on maintaining the quality standards and distribution restrictions on the Supima name. meaning that maintaining the integrity of the brand was their top priority. Some years later, Supima expanded our licensing program. Today we have licensees in 38 countries, and we have a total of 370 licensees around the world. Besides Brooks Brothers, here are some of our prominent licensees who are authorized to use the Supima name and trademark. As I stated earlier, we work very closely with Brooks Brothers for over 25 years now. But about 3 years ago, Jeff Elder and I met with Brooks Brothers to discuss how we might take this relationship or this partnership to a new level. We talked about developing a marketing strategy to capitalize on that this rare, expensive cotton was being used by Brooks Brothers in such products as shirts, sweaters, underwear, T-shirts, and other products. Brooks Brothers has always been very keenly aware and interested in where their fibers and fabrics are coming from, whether it be wool, cashmere, linen, or cotton. They have a history of being involved with their suppliers and knowing about the fiber, the fabric, and the garment manufacturer. The fact that Supima cotton was grown almost exclusively in California was being used in many of their products, we thought made a very interesting story. Another important factor in putting this all together was the fact that both Supima cotton and Brooks Brothers are true American brands. Brooks Brothers has been around since 1918. They're one of the best-known, most prominent American retailers. In recent years, they have obviously expanded around the world, and their solid tradition of fashion, ideas, and style has proven to have an international following. Supima is also an American brand, but international in scope. 95% of our cotton is exported, but a large portion of it returns to the shelves and stores in the United States. You're going to hear more about the retail part of this partnership later, but now I want you to hear from Jeff Elder, who's Vice President of J.G. Boswell and Company. Boswell is one of the many growers of this cotton, but they are the largest grower of Supima cotton. They grow anywhere between 30 and 45% of our production annually. And the type quality standards they demand are what makes Supima cotton what it is today. So again, we call this, as it was shown on the slide earlier, from dirt to shirt. So at this time, I'll ask Jeff Elder to come up. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jess, and thank you, Tom. I appreciate the introduction. I imagine I'm probably the first cotton farmer that's been invited to this event, and I think actually it's pretty appropriate this year. You know, for the past decade, there's been people who felt that their livelihood was being determined by retailers. And I would imagine over the last 10 months, there's probably a lot of retailers in the building with these high prices of cotton who think that maybe their livelihood is being determined by cotton farmers. It's important to remember, though, that farmers are marketers also. And we are constantly looking for ways to differentiate ourselves from other farmers around the world. And the Supima organization is an excellent example of that. For the past 50 years, U.S. Pima farmers have been supporting Jess Curlee and others in their efforts to promote Supima cotton and the quality fiber that we produce. It took a lot of courage, a lot of foresight, and a lot of capital for those farmers 50 years ago to develop this organization. And through the hard work of Jess, it's been a very well-rewarded investment for them. At the J.G. Boswell Company, we're also very interested in setting ourselves apart as a quality producer of products. And so for us, it's just a great thrill to be able to host Mr. Del Vecchio and the Brooks Brothers top management teams at our farm. They're a company that very much is concerned about where their raw material is made and how it's produced. And so we think that those types of visits that we've had over the years make us a better farmer. We know that they make us a better farmer. So who is the Boswell Company? Well, we're an 85-year-old farming operation located in the San Joaquin Valley of California. For the past 85 years, cotton has been our #1 product. But to ensure the quality of our ground and the quality of our soils, we're on a very strict rotation. So we also grow tomatoes, safflower, wheat, and alfalfa. And you'll notice some of the random video that I brought from the farm. The tomatoes we process into paste, and we sell it to companies like Heinz and ConAgra. And the safflower and the cottonseed we process into high-quality cooking oil, and we sell it to people like Kettle Chips and In-N-Out Burger for their French fries. But again, cotton is our #1 product. And as just mentioned, in any given year over the past decade, we've produced somewhere between 30 and 45% of the U.S. Pima crop. It so happens that the hot, dry summers in California, combined with our lake bottom soil, make our farm just the perfect place to be growing extra long staple cotton. It requires a certain growing region, and that's why only 3% of the world's production is extra long staple cotton. I need to change. We are proud to say that we're producing in what we consider to be the most environmentally conscious and regulated state in the Union. Most everything we do is very closely watched by federal, state, and local agencies. But it's important to know that we have our own monitoring on farm also. After all, we live there. Currently, the 3rd generation of Boswell family members are working every day on the farm, and the 4th generation was born last year and is living in a town nearby. We have many employees that have worked for over 25 years on the farm, and at the same time, we have many employees that are 2nd and 3rd generation employees. So for us, sustainability is not a measured metric. For us, it is ensuring that we have a safe, reliable, desirable, and profitable operation so that we can continue to attract future generations of dedicated Boswell employees. It's the employees that are giving us the productivity. Farmers do not have the luxury of picking up their factories and moving to some other town. They are forever bound to the ground, and their families are bound to the communities that they serve. We are now producing 60% more food and fiber per acre using less water, fertilizer, and insecticides than we did 40 years ago. Soil loss efficiency has improved by 30%, energy use per unit of output by 40%, and carbon emissions have improved by 1/3. What other factory in the world can say that they have less coming in the front door and more going out the back door? Well, in agriculture, we strive for that every single day. And I know there's been a lot of talk about water in California, but I can tell you we've lost a lot more cotton to flooding than we ever have to drought. The size, location, and management of our farm gives us certain competitive advantages, and I'd like to talk to you about a few of them. First of all, and maybe most importantly, is that we're able to offer very consistent cotton shipments, what we consider even running cotton. And we can do that because we have very similar soil types, we develop our own varieties, and we farm under one management system. And then what that means is that our spinning customers can make thread that has less thick places, less thin places, less breakage, less contamination, and better dye uptake. They tell us that's very important. They tell us that that means that they have better efficiencies in their plant, and the end product is higher quality. And if it's important to them, it's important to us. Another area that we excel, as I said, is contamination. And this is because we control the farming, the ginning, and the shipping of the cotton. So those areas where contamination can enter the cotton stream, we control and monitor those very closely. Another area that we have expertise in is in better farm management practices. And I'll give you a couple of examples of that. One of them is our integrated pest management. We can grow crops on the perimeter of our farm that attract and trap the insects, and that allows us to use less insecticides on the interior of our farm. We also use a great deal of technology. We have our own GPS relay stations, and what that means for us is that the tractors on our farm are actually driven by the satellites. The satellite drives the tractor across the field, the tractor driver turns it around, lines it up at the end of the row with the GPS, and the satellite drives it back across the field. And the satellite is accurate within per mile, and that's day, night, fog, rain. The satellites don't seem to care. Again, and one of the other advantages of the GPS system is that it allows us to vary the amount of seed, the amount of fertilizer, and the amount of insecticide depending on the quality of the ground that we're driving over. So again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create an atmosphere where we can have more production with less inputs. Well, so what does all this mean? Well, what I think it means is that we have a story to tell, and we think it's a very compelling story to tell. We're growing the best cotton in the world. We're growing it in the United States of America. We're growing it in what we consider to be the most environmentally conscientious cotton growing region in the world. and we're able to have more output with less input. And when companies like Brooks Brothers comes out to visit our farm, they can ask the questions that need to be asked, and not only can we give them the answers, but we can show them the procedures that we have in place to ensure that year in and year out, they're going to get a quality product. By the year 2050, it's anticipated that the world needs to double the amount of food and fiber that it's producing. At the J.G. Boswell Company, we're very excited about the challenges and to develop the technologies and the applications that are going to make that possible. And we know that within a few short years, whatever we develop on our farm will soon be used on smaller, less capitalized farms around the world. And we're very proud of that also. Thank you very much. And with that, I'll turn it out to Mr. Vecchio.
Good morning, and we'll try to close on this part of the partnership. And what I would like to speak to you today about is what we call innovation in action, and how this delivers real value to our customer. Brooks Brothers was founded with a simple promise: deal in the merchandise of the best quality, to sell at a fair price, profit, and to deal only with people who seek and are capable of appreciating such merchandise. This statement was written almost 200 years ago by our founder and still serves our missions today. It states our commitment to quality and value, and it exemplifies the demand of our customer and alludes to the importance of building long-term relationship with them. The reason I'm showing this today is that our partnership with Supima is a great example on how we continuously strive to accomplish this mission. As you can see, our Supima collection represents a very diversified product offering. Items for men, women's, children, and now home. In a great mix of colors, spanning from more classic to more contemporary, and from more casual to more dressy and refined. It really shows the breadth of what Supima allows us to deliver. Big way away from making tires, huh? From a marketing standpoint, Supima was a 360 degrees including a Supima catalog, on which we were able to communicate in all its glory, the product, a free share card program to enable trial and engage new customers. Many of those were distributed at charity events around the country during the period of the promotion. A Supima theme insert in our credit card statement. A Supima microsite and email campaign marketing. A 4-page insert in JQ magazine. And together with JQ, also an iPhone and iPad app. And of course, great coverage throughout all our social media efforts. These efforts, of course, continue in our store, incorporating store windows, as Jesse already mentioned, signage and visual merchandising, internal product knowledge, and a series of training breakfasts for our sales associates, jointly conducted by Supima and Brooks Brothers. For us, however, the experience is not just what happened in the store. In fact, it begins at the farm. For each of the past 2 years, we have sent associates to Supima Field Farm in California, in the product, not the garments, and so they can gain a better appreciation of what makes Supima unique, and the specialness of the partnership between Brooks Brothers and Supima. Let's take a look. So to further engage and energize our associates around Supima, this year we also held our first Supima Day. As part of this day-long celebration, teams were encouraged to submit a creative photo demonstrating the Supima pride and enthusiasm. The incentive was a series of towels, Supima towels, some of you received that, The response was truly impressive and showcased our team creativity and genuine support for the Supima. We received many, many submissions for that. Basically, almost all the stores made this a major and very much fun contest. Ultimately, though, a campaign is only as good as it performs, and here, too, Supima was very superior. During the 3 months campaign period last year, our Supima business was up by nearly 60% against the previous year. As a comparison, the total Brooks Brothers retail business, excluding Supima, was up 5% during the same period. And there was a significant carryover to other category. For every dollar that customers spent on Supima, he spent also another $100, $1.50 on other products. And that customer also ended up increasing the visit to our store by 1 for the season. So the return on investment was nearly 200%, showing that not only drove the top line, but also drove significant incremental margin. So on all aspects of the business, product, marketing, associates, and the customers, we feel that our partnership with Supima has been a partnership and is a partnership we look forward to for many, many years. Thank you.
This polyester stuff is just killing me. We're going to cut this thing short. I need to go out and get some new underwear. Okay, so what we want to do now, the group wants to answer some questions, and so we're going to be looking for some questions today across anywhere from the dirt to shirt model. No mathematical questions, please. So do we have any questions yet before I ask mine? Okay, I'm going to do what everybody else does. You know, I can't see you. So go ahead, your question.
For Jeff Elder, wondering if you're looking into going into growing organic cotton if you haven't already.
No, we do not grow organic cotton, and actually we would decimate the industry if we did. There's one grower in California that grows 200 acres of it, and that's somewhere around 400 bales, and he has a difficult time in certain years in making a profit or in selling that product. And one of the problems with organic is that when prices are low, you're going to see I get a call every week about somebody wanting organic cotton. When prices are high, the conversation stops. And that's why over the next couple of years, what you'll notice is there's really only 3 countries that are going to be developing and growing their organic cotton. It's going to be Turkey, India, and the countries of Africa. And the reason is Turkey and India cheat, and the countries of Africa can't afford to get the better seeds and the better technology, and they have some of the lowest yields in the world.
Great.
I'm curious as to understand the implications of farming long strain cotton and the differences between the longer strains and the shorter strains of cotton.
The question, so is your question on, is it the difference between a Supima cotton and another cotton?
It is on the differences between short staple and long staple cotton
Short staple.
and the end result of using whichever strain, and also on some of the implications of what farming cotton entails.
Well, I can answer the first part of that. First of all, Barber dense cotton, which is the extra long staple cotton, requires a very dry, hot summer. It's a crop that needs to be irrigated so it doesn't work well in rain-grown areas. And that's why you find in Egypt, which is a desert with the Nile River. You find it in Peru, which is a desert with mountains surrounding it. Same thing in Urumqi, same thing in California. They're desert climates during the summer, and they have a lot of snowpack that provides water. So that's one of the areas that constrains the growth of it. From the actual farming standpoint of it, the risk comes in that it requires a longer growing season. So you're more susceptible to planting risk at the early part of spring, like we are now with cold weather in California, and you're more susceptible to an early fall that would rain on your cotton.
Does that answer your question? And so maybe also, so if we said Egyptian cotton, when we see out there as consumers, we're really talking that is the shorter
Well, Egyptian cotton is cotton grown in Egypt.
So is,
So, so some of it is shorter, some of it is longer. It's different than Supima, which has a criteria of length, strength, and quality. Egypt has the full gamut, and one of their varieties is equal to ours, and about 8 of them are shorter staple than ours.
okay, that's what I thought.
Oh, they you know, not degrading their cotton. They grow some good cotton, but only about 20, as Jeff says, only about 25% of the cotton in Egypt is extra long staple. The rest is
Okay,
long staple or regular staple cotton, only about 25% of it. So
okay.
all of ours is extra long staple.
One more question. Any predictions as to the future of the price of cotton, AKA dropping?
Are you from Chicago? Future
I'll give
prices.
my answer, and then we'll let the retailer give his answer. But I think one thing is I think it's a mistake to look at cotton in isolation. I mean, if you price cotton today in oil or in gold, it hasn't gone up at all. So this is something different that's happened in the last 2 or 3 years when we've seen spike in commodity prices. This is being driven by demand for farmland. And there isn't a farmer in the world that's in the textile business, they're in the farming business, and you're going to have to compete with that farmer against other crops. So I think that we maybe have moved too far too fast, and I think we'll have some demand destruction, but I think that you're going to have to be prepared for just higher ranges in general over the next decade commodities.
You know, the way we deal with that, you know, as a retailer, of course, is, you know, we're trying to predict, but at the end, it's not so much to predict. It's what we pay for the product, we have to make a profit on that, and we have to, of course, save our markup. Now, the prediction comes on when to increase the prices, but at this point, from a Bruce Brothers standpoint, I think we always preserve a very good value on everything we sell, including Supima. Our prices this season do not, although they're higher, they do not represent the increase in price that we had. So we are eating some of the margin, and we're hoping that some, you know, the cotton might reach a peak, and it might be lower a little later. And but if that doesn't happen, we probably have to increase again. Now, the reaction to our price increases so far, they've been pretty good. And that's fortunate because probably most of our customers realize that we always give them very good value. And in fact, if you want to buy the same product somewhere else, you probably have a hard time to pay close to our price anyway today. So we still have a good value on that.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.